Play.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, welcome to Healthy Happy Hour, episode 11. We're talking all things gut health today. I'm Raina. I'm a holistic health coach. I've been practicing health coaching for the past 5 years, and I really like working with burned out, stressed out corporate professionals, people who are struggling to figure out how to fit self-care, healthy habits into their busy lifestyles. And I have my awesome co-host here, Joelle. We met at a gym a few years ago.
Yes. I've been personal training since 2015. My passion has always been about making health easy for others. It doesn't have to be hard. We can take it one step at a time, and I love that opportunity. So we're excited to be here and to share some of those nuggets with y'all today. What's up, Brittany? Welcome. Brittany was my client at Body Renew as well. Way back in the day. Yes. Raina, my boot camps at Body Renew, Brittany. So we're in good company. Awesome.
Yeah, those are always so good.
Yes.
Cool. So for our healthy happy hour today, we're going back to our original. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm like seeing freezing. Okay, cool. We're going back to our original outline of just like nutrition, movement, and mindfulness. We're going to be doing practices and tips in each of those areas. So I wanted to open it up talking about nutrition and what that means for our gut. So there's so much of this in the news and in the media. People are like, do this for your gut, eat this, don't eat that. And honestly, I've been taking a nutrition course right now, and it really comes down to like the answer of it depends. Yeah. So there's no like one size or one eating style or certain foods necessarily, but there are some general things that we can be practicing and doing that is beneficial to our gut health and our good bacteria that live there. So just to talk about the basics, like the gut microbiome is the bacteria and the fungi that are living in our intestines. And so there's a lot of things that can influence that, and it can be everything from your genetics, your daily exercise and movement, what kind of foods you're eating, medications you're taking, just your overall body composition, your age, your stress level, your alcohol and tobacco intake, even how you were born, whether it was vaginally or C-section, that can affect what microbes we have in our microbiome. Also, just your exposure to your environment. Are you with pets? Are you in more of a rural area? Are you in like a city with a ton of pollution on a regular basis? And then like sanitation and hygiene, is that something that you practice a lot, or, you know, it depends on where you live, right? So all of those things can really affect our gut health. And I think that's why this is so much more complex than just like eat fermented foods or, you know, eat these types of things. But with that being said, again, just like general guidelines that I wanted to get into today. So the first thing, just talking about the benefits of how to support your gut. Sorry, not the benefits, but just how to support your gut. So it's slower eating and more chewing. And this seems like so silly and small and easy to overlook. But when you think about it, when you chew your food, you're increasing the surface area of those little food molecules, food particles, and that allows our digestive enzymes in our body to actually break that food down. So when we're eating quickly and not chewing very much, we have kind of bigger chunks of food, and it's harder for our body to even digest and absorb that. So
yes,
yeah, and this can lead to things like, you know, bloating or gas. You know, you're gulping air, a lot more air if you're eating quickly, and yeah, so that's definitely something to just be mindful of. And you're supporting your system and allowing it to do its job when you're just taking a little extra chews. And I know it's kind of gross to think about, but the recommendation for that is like chewing whatever you're eating, so it's like applesauce texture. Yeah, and then just making sure you're taking some breaths while you're eating your meal, whether you're with someone or you're by yourself, actively setting your fork down and breathing, because in order to digest, we have to be shifting our nervous system into a parasympathetic state, which is like the rest and digest system, and breathing turns that on. And so if we're not breathing, then it's just, again, it's like those big chunks of undigested food that comes up. Yeah. And
well, if you think about it, even if you're eating something that you really like, if you're like, oh, I have 3 minutes to get this meal down, and you inhale it, you, even on a surface level, don't get satiated from it. Like, that's just, it's not going to hit the same. And then you end up with extra gas or bloated, or just feeling like a bomb hit your stomach, and you're like, well, now I really don't feel good. So to take that extra time, no matter what it is that you're eating, you're giving yourself more of that present moment, and we know that that's going to lead to better digestion. It makes us feel better on every level, so why not?
Yeah, good call out. Exactly. And then also talking about food variety. So we can be eating foods, talking about like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, minimally processed foods. There has been studies that show like ultra processed foods, so things that tend to have like a huge paragraph of ingredients, or you can't really tell if it has come from the ground or something like that. That's how I would like describe ultra processed. There was a study where they did 2 groups, and they fed the same like macronutrient background, so same amount of fats, carbs, and proteins in like a ultra processed food, and then like a whole foods based diet. And consistently, the group who were eating the same like background of macros for the ultra processed, they would eat about 500 calories more. And so that was just really interesting to, kind of understand. Like, it's almost empowering, because when you're sitting there eating something and you're like, man, I just inhaled this bag of chips, and how did that even happen? Well, it's like, it's designed to be that way. So again, just like thinking about that when you're making your food choices, I think that can be helpful. And then the benefit of having variety of like different foods is that it actually feeds our gut bacteria, specifically like produce, that helps produce short chain fatty acids, which is what helps support our immune system, turns on our appetite regulation, and it's also our stress response too. So that's like, again, thinking about the foods that you pick, it affects all of those areas too.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at my notes. I think that's really what I wanted to touch on. There's also fiber, but Joelle, do you want to add anything before I go to that?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, mindfully eating. We were talking about this before we started recording with Trish and her vacation, and just being fully immersed in your surroundings. We should do that with our meals as often as possible. Like setting your fork down is something Raina said. I read a book once, actually I've read it many times. It's called French Women Don't Get Fat. And that was one of her things, was when you eat like a French person, you don't distract yourself with other things. You're not multitasking during your meals. And so your body responds better to them. So being fully present means that you're noticing the taste, textures, and sensations in your mouth and your body, as well as your emotions and your thoughts that come up as you're eating. Because the more energy we put into this simple act, or so we feel, the more our body is going to take it as the proper weight of what it is, and that's in the best way. It's being mindful can just lead to everything being easier, better digestion because you're eating slower, of course, better nutrient absorption, and that's going to be just from the likeliness of you choosing better options. You're probably not going to do like, I'm going to do a really nice mindful eating meal here with some McDonald's. Like, it's probably not going to hit the same if you try that. And then it also promotes relaxation, that parasympathetic response that we need, because you're slowing down and just being. So yeah, it's it's simple things like that, I think, are probably the most effective because you get a chance to hear your body's response instead of rather you just need this supplement or this thing to fix your gut health. You need to be present so that you can hear your body's response. Oftentimes people are like, oh yeah, I have digestive issues, like it's pretty much always upset. Okay, what makes it upset? I don't know, seemingly every, and isn't true, but it's because we haven't taken the time to hear our body's responses.
That's so true. Yeah, and with that being said too, like there are certain sensitivities that people have to, let's say, like cruciferous vegetables. So like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, those types of things like if they make you extremely gassy, then maybe don't eat that. Or you can cook it differently, see if that makes a difference. So that's something else to be mindful of too. And then along with like supporting our gut, another thing, not only like what we're eating, but making sure you're eliminating and detoxing, as in going to the bathroom, number 2. So something that helps with that is fiber. And there's 2 types of fiber that I want to talk about. It's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So knowing the difference between the two is helpful depending on what like gut issue you're having. So if you want to look at soluble fiber, that absorbs water and it actually creates like a gel that helps like soften our stool. So if you're feeling just constipated, or maybe you're not even like going that often, at least like once a day, soluble fiber can help with that. So that would be like whole grains, beans, legumes, and psyllium. Those are like really rich in soluble fiber. Insoluble is not dissolving in water. So this actually adds bulk and weight to your stool, making it easier and often like faster to pass. So it just helps improve your regularity, and it can be found in non-starchy vegetables like artichoke, asparagus, broccoli, cabbage, celery, wheat bran. All of those are like really good sources of insoluble fiber. Yeah, and the cool thing about your microbiome and like taking care of it is you can start to see changes within 24 hours. If you're, if yesterday you're eating, super processed foods and today you have 3 meals of like minimally processed foods, by tomorrow, technically you could start to see some shifts in your bacteria in your gut, which is huge. And that's like honestly really encouraging to find out as well. Yeah. And last thing I just wanted to say with mindful eating, going back to that, I also just read this study about how when we have a screen in front of us, whether it's your computer, your phone, the TV, we just naturally tend to eat 15% more. So going back to ultra processed foods, that encourages us to eat more. And then also being distracted from a screen specifically encourages us to eat more. So that's just something else to think about.
And if it's hard for you to meditate, for instance, or to take a moment for yourself, this would be the right kind of multitasking, in my opinion, to stack that. Okay, my meals are my own, or at least 1 meal a day. That one's mine. If that means you have to wake up earlier to avoid the children or whatever it takes, or step out for lunch at work instead of eating with everybody else, that can be a huge moment for yourself and just to get that little connection with you. I think that's really, really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been guilty of, eating while driving. That has been something I've done a lot in the past and have been shifting to be more mindful of.
Yes.
And sometimes it's so hard because you're literally like, maybe this is a food emergency. You're so hungry. You ordered like some pickup food and it's in your car and you're like, I can't even wait till I get home. So in those moments, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit here for 5-10 minutes. And like, if I need to have a few bites, then I'm going to do it while I'm sitting here, not while I'm driving and like distracted. So that's been like a little tweak that I did too. And I do notice that like the food does tend to sit better. Like I feel like I'm noticing those cues, like Joelle was saying, like more connected to that. Yeah.
That's a really great tiny habit. Like the first little start, I'm going to just make it so I don't do this that way, right?
Yeah.
Love.
All right. Do you want to go into movement?
Yes. All right. So movement, obviously, there's a lot of things that we can do to affect our gut health, both directly and indirectly. Have you guys ever just walked for a little bit right after eating? That feeling of, oh man, I'm kind of full. That feels counterintuitive to get up and move, but that immediately starts digestion because your body is pumping blood, right? And so once that blood starts to flow, the body starts to say, oh, there's something to do here. There's a job, and we're going to take care of it. Another one that actually I didn't think about consciously until we were researching for this episode, but stay sitting up for at least 30 minutes after you eat. That also feels counterintuitive, right? You overeat a little bit and you're like, I'm just going to lay down. Lay down feels like I can let my stomach relax and stretch out. And I want to do that because that's going to feel better. But actually, gravity is doing a lot of work here. So staying vertical for at least 30 minutes after a meal is shown to improve digestion, both in speed and effectiveness. There's some yoga poses that are good for gut stimulating. Pretty much anything that you're folded or twisting, I found. So there's a lot like the wind relieving pose is one where you're laying on your back and you bring one knee to your nose and take several breaths. So you're kind of like curled up into a ball and then relax, and then the other knee and then both knees together. This is going to be something that's going to say it's essentially contracting and relaxing. So you're getting the muscles around your intestines to activate. That tells your body, okay, let's get things moving. Triangle pose is another one where it's slightly twisted, half fish, you're sitting on the ground, you cross over and twist. That's going to get your core activated and moving, and that's going to get our digestion flowing. I have no words this morning. This is what we get when we do it a day early.
Me either.
Low deep Buddha squat is what I call it. The pose where you just go like ass to grass and try to push your knees out. That's going to be really good for your digestion. It also straightens out that lowest part of your spine. So you feel more, you can feel the sensations more of your body moving the way it needs to. Some other fun effects of exercise on your gut health: regular bowel movements. When you move, it's easier for your body too. You're also less likely to develop IBS or IBD. It increases the diversity of your gut bacteria, which I thought was interesting. Reduces the stress and mood disorders, which are shown to be connected to gut issues. So that's an indirect one, but still very relevant. It enhances nutrient absorption via increased blood flow. So like I said, if we're moving the body in any way, we're increasing blood flow. That also is going to improve digestion because it's doing that everywhere. And then, of course, weight management. If you're taking care of your body's weight via exercise, that is going to help your gut health as well. Stomach massage. This is something that I hadn't really thought of until I was at the masseuse. It was a few months ago, but she said that she actually doesn't do it often in sessions. She'll just teach because the client like they're gonna right now, which I was like, that's kind of cool. But I'll show you here because I think yeah, we can kind of see my stomach. So you're gonna start low and on your left side, and then you drag your fingers up and kind of hold. Drag your fingers across, hold. Drag them down, hold, and then across again, and then release. So you're just kind of doing a clockwise rotation here, following your core, all four quadrants, and then releasing on that bottom left corner. And that's going to be the same flow that your intestines go, and it encourages movement. So if you're like, man, I just feel like I'm backed up or I'm extra bloated or why does this feel like this sensation is not awesome? It's definitely something that's easy to try, doesn't take a lot of time, and is really effective. What else? I think that's all I have. What do you got, Raina?
I think honestly you touched on everything with exercise. Was there a little workout or anything you wanted to do, demo?
I mean, we could do some of those poses if we want.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if I don't knock anything down here. I have a cat on a chair. There we go. All right, so like I said, the knee to the nose, that's a good one to start. If you're laying flat, extend your legs out and bring one in and crunch up. And you want to
Yeah, so
hold
if you guys want to do this, follow along with Joelle. You can leave your camera on or turn it off.
Yeah. And then the other one, we just inhale and exhale as slowly as you can. You don't want this to feel forced. You just want it to feel like you're relaxing into the movement, into the exercise. We'll go one more on each side. I'm just doing a few breaths. Feeling my stomach rise up to my leg and then relax into the floor. You can feel that difference. It's good. It also feels fantastic on the hips. The last one, we'll do both knees to the chest and nose up. And relax. We'll sit up and do just seated forward bend. Doesn't matter really how intense you're able to fold forward. I'm not super flexible with the hammies, but going forward from the hips, I like to start here. So nice long straight back, hinge at the hips. So I feel it in the hamstrings. Wait a few breaths and then let my upper body, my back relax. We'll tuck one leg in. I think you can see me. Tuck one leg in and then also cross the other leg on top. This is that half fish. And we're going to turn towards our bottom leg. You'll feel it pull a lot in the glute and this outside leg, but that twist is happening in your core as well. So go up as long as you, or up as high as you can with your head, like somebody's pulling on you like a puppet, and twist. We'll go center one more time. Inhale, and then on the exhale, twist.
Same side.
Yeah. All right, switch those legs, stretch them out, and the other side. Cross one, cross the other. Inhale. Ooh, this side's way harder. And twist. Find center. We'll twist that same side one more time. Inhale. And exhale. All right, kind of before we get up all the way, we'll go into that deep Buddha squat. Whatever's comfortable for you. There we go. Pushing a little bit on those knees. If you think about it again, what is it doing to your core? So those knees coming up is like activating, curling my lower and mid spine. That's going to be giving some movement to that core. All right, last one, we'll do some triangle. So wide feet, toes pointing, my left foot, I don't know, yeah, my left foot, toes are pointing this way. So I'm going to reach my hand down and follow along that leg, reaching my other arm up. You feel that pull right here, that activation that's happening to keep my body in line. And it's a little slight twist too. And come up, switch the toes, and the other direction. And up. Cake, right? Nothing crazy. Just a little bit of movement, and that's going to make our digestive system wake up. Another thing to remember, I know Brittany and Raina both heard me say this, but when you're exercising, you should be thinking about the muscle group that you're trying to activate. Studies have shown that even just thinking about that group is going to activate the muscles over 100% increase. So if you're doing something like this and saying, I'm activating my digestive system, I want to think about what's happening to my core, you're going to have more effective work and movement and activation in that area. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question, Joelle. Like, for doing these stretches, would you recommend before eating or after?
I would probably try both and see what seems to be most effective for you.
Okay.
If you think, my instinct says if you, after a meal, typically you're like, oh, I want to not move, then that's probably what needs to happen. And if that means that you'll eat a little bit differently, or maybe in a different pace, or maybe just a little bit less quality or quantity, for you to say, oh, I'm going to do a little movement after this, I'm not going to clean my plate today, for instance. I would lean that direction, but try it out both ways and see what seems to be more effective for you. Just makes you feel good, feel like you're not, not bloated from a meal. That's my typical response, is bloating. Like and I've had surgeries when I was born that do affect my digestive system. So I'm a little bit of a special case, but those types of things where I can feel like I'm not ignoring the problem. So I like to do the movement before and after on my best days, because then I'm more aware, more conscious of what it is that I'm trying to accomplish.
I love that. Yeah. And I think too, sometimes if I'm feeling that resistance to doing movement afterwards, I'll just do the walk and be like, okay, I'll put on like an audiobook that I've been wanting to listen to, or a podcast, or like a really good song, just something that's going to make it a little more enjoyable and incentivize it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if you just do 5 minutes, like, cool. But usually I'll be out there for like 10 to 20.
Yeah, right. It's the first 5 that suck the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always.
Yes. So that's like going into a good segue with the mindfulness component that we're going to touch on today. And I think we've kind of been alluding to this the whole time, but like the gut is known as our second brain, right? And there's neurons that connect from our brain to our gut, and they're constantly communicating. And so relaxation of the mind and body activates the parasympathetic system that we've talked about, which promotes really good functioning of our gut. And like Joelle was saying, using your mind to focus on certain muscle groups when you're working out, you can also be using your mind to stimulate your digestion in a way too. Because you think about it, like if you're feeling stressed or maybe anxious, overwhelmed, like, do you ever just notice that you're eating and you're not even noticing like the taste or the flavor? You're just kind of going through the motions. And then I notice, like, I don't know if I'm full or not. Like, I'm having a hard time getting a gauge on that. So that's something else where mindfulness can help, reconnect you to that piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a meditation here for us to do.
Yay!
Yeah, it's specifically focusing on mindful eating, but you don't necessarily need to have food with you right now. Or if you have, we forgot to mention our mocktails at the beginning. If you guys have a drink with you, you can maybe do this. Yeah, I have a smoothie.
Oh, yum.
Yes.
I made a side note, but there's this tea that I got at Safeway. It's turmeric mango ginger.
Ooh.
And yeah, the first time I had it, I was like, okay, that is so good. It needs to be a mocktail. So this morning, I like brewed 2 bags in just a couple ounces of water, so it would be like a little concentrate. And then I topped it with some blood orange lemonade seltzer. It is so good. So good. I was like, this is the one.
Wow.
It has like this Starbucks refresher vibes, but like minus the extra sugar.
I love that. That's so creative and so like summery, refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I just put protein powder, greens, some peanut butter, and frozen raspberries in here, and it is delish. Loving it. Okay, let me know if you guys can hear this.
One thing before we get into the meditation that I want to say is particularly around eating, we have a lot of cultural baggage, and it's also very wrapped up in emotions as well. And when we practice our mindfulness of eating, we may be focusing on that for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or more, but there's also an opportunity to, anytime that we're eating or throughout the day, we can bring our mindfulness to help us reconnect with the present moment and notice when we're starting to feel hungry, what else is going on there? Also, we may notice that when we're practicing our mindfulness of eating, we may begin to connect more with enjoyment of eating, particularly with healthy foods. It's going to be, again, an encouragement to us as we're refreshing our diets. We hope that mindfulness of eating meditation may be a support to you in refreshing your diet. So, without further ado, let's get started. Like with our other meditations, you want to find a quiet environment to sit comfortably. For this meditation, we may be sitting in a chair. And as we start out practicing mindfulness of eating, let's start with one simple food item. It could be a few raisins, it could be a piece of chocolate, it could be an apple, something that's healthy. And let's bring some attention to the experience of eating. And my guidance today is going to be more of instruction. You don't necessarily need to listen to this as you're eating, but I'll share with you a few tips on this experience, and then you can apply that to your own experience of eating. So what you want to do is find that comfortable seat, the feet on the floor, your back in alignment, that upright but yet flexible posture. And we're going to engage all the senses. So if you have that food in front of you, let's start by looking at it, really observing it, noticing the color, the texture. You want to observe that food as if for the first time. So looking at it in your hand and noticing what you see, what you observe about it. What does it feel like? What is the texture like? What is the weight like in your hand? Also, as we are holding this food, considering where it comes from, considering that in this food there is water, there is sunlight, wherever this came from, that this food is truly a miracle. All of the things that had to come together to create this food. All of the people who brought this to you, considering all of that and sitting with that for a moment. And then let's start to taste that food. So taking a bite. And we're going slowly here, taking a bite, really noticing what is the sensation like of biting into that food. Bringing your attention to your jaw and your mouth as you're chewing. Throughout this experience, maybe we'll get distracted and we'll be hearing noises outside the room, and just noticing when those things arise, observing them and letting them go gently, and coming back again and again to the sensation of eating, just like we did in the loving kindness meditation as well. And we follow this process all the way through, noticing all of the sensations that arise in our body as we are eating. In slowing down our process and in coming into the present moment and into our bodies when we're eating, we're giving ourselves a chance to really be with the experience, to savor it, and to slow down, and also to watch what happens in the mind. As we're eating slowly, what is your mind doing? Are you wanting to rush? Are you wanting to eat a lot more? Are you impatient? Or are you feeling more at peace? Just observing all those things that can be going on in the experience. We want to bring that self-compassion so that we're gentle with ourselves. Changing the way we're eating is challenging, and a lot of things can come up for us. And we just observe. We don't need to judge the feelings that come up around eating. We can let them be and just observe whatever those feelings are, even the challenging feelings. A lot of the research shows that applying the self-compassion to ourselves, particularly around exercise, around healthy eating, applying that self-compassion can actually help us to more sustainably reach our goals over time.
I can dig it.
I like it.
Yeah. We don't take that moment. Like I said, I mean, I hadn't listened to that one yet because Raina had chose it, but it was right on with taking the time to be with yourself and your food and what that does for you. I love that.
I mean, honestly, I feel like going into it, I was like, oh my God, coffee. I have coffee. I have water right here. Like, and honestly, I think that's the first time in like a long time focused on my coffee. And I wasn't just, like it seems so dumb because I was like, oh my God, all I have is coffee. Like you guys at least have something with,
Something.
But like, I feel like even just that moment of being like, wow, like I'm actually tasting my coffee and not just like, it's not a means to an end to be like, okay, I just need this because otherwise I get this huge ass because I'm not drinking coffee, like
Right.
It's like, I have to do this. It's like, wow, like I'm really sitting with this and enjoying and like, this is getting like expensive freaking coffee. And this is the first time I'm almost done with this bag. And this is the first time that I think I've actually sat and just drank it, like, and enjoyed it. So thank you for that.
Beautiful. Yes. I'm so glad. That's one we've talked tiny habits in the last couple of healthy happy hours. And that was one of the things that is a thing that is really easy in my mind. Like most of us drink coffee or tea every day, but how often do you sit with it? Like sit with it. So that's awesome that it hit for you. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you guys have any other comments or questions before? That was all that I think we had.
Yeah, that was good. Fantastic. You got anything, Miss Trish?
No, I when you mentioned earlier the book about Parisian women, or I remember when that book came out, and I have to think too that part of the reason why they're healthier is just because the food is healthier in Europe.
Sure. It is cultural. It is cultural. In what they for instance, it is very common for school-age children to go home for lunch. That's
interesting.
It's very common. So there is some things that if you even take out the quality of the food, which is obviously a huge factor, there is a lot of other things that we can control in America that we can implement. And those are, I would say that mindfulness is the base of a lot of them. I've read the book many times when I'm feeling like I need a little pick-me-up and perspective shift. She talks about eating seasonally, like eating things that are going to taste better. If they taste better, we'll enjoy them more. Like there's just so many things that we overlook for lots of reasons, or we just doesn't seem possible. And that's her story is really beautiful. She's the CEO of Veuve Clicquot. It's a champagne brand. I know that one. It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, she's the CEO, and she was in high school. She did an exchange program, and she went to America for a year. And she was like gaining weight like no other, and she didn't because she just like think she was mindful in her way that she was raised, to the point that it had become second nature, so that it wasn't mindful anymore. Like she just didn't even realize that she was overeating, and she stopped even sending her parents photos of anything other than her face. Like her exchange mom had to sew her new clothes because she couldn't fit in her clothes. So there's all these things, and she like moves back to France and brings her sister, her American sister, with her. And her dad sees her at the airport, and apparently he's like a big softie, but he looked at her, and the first thing he said was, "You look like a sack of potatoes." And she was like, and he wasn't meaning a no 10-pound bag, like So she, was like really upset, obviously. And like her mom said, we're going to just call the pediatrician, because that's another like cultural thing. They like have a pediatrician that comes to the house, and they've had that pediatrician their whole life. So the pediatrician says, I'm going to reteach you how to be French. And then that was what she wrote her book on. And so that's like silly things that we do culturally that just totally screw us. Like my favorite example is, if I'm going to take you out to a big fancy dinner tonight, it's super common for women to say, I'm not going to eat all day. I'm not going to eat today because I'm going to have this super great, amazing meal tonight. And I want to save my calories for tonight. So in France, if they had an overindulgent meal, they would just lighten up the next day, and not for a place of guilt or a place of like, shouldn't have done that, but just I indulged. Now I will kind of calibrate. I'll just even the score a little bit. And so it comes from such a different place that it changes everything. And to your point, Trish, about the food quality just not being there, you're not wrong at all. And it's one of my biggest problems with our government in general, with what we have out there. That said, something that is also incredibly fascinating that I was reading recently was, if you tell yourself, the power of the mind, if you tell yourself and believe that what you are eating is healthy, your body will treat it as such. So fascinating, dude. Fascinating. And if you think about it, there's people that we know, they're rare, but there's people that we know in our lives that can eat anything and they still look amazing. And they're just like, oh, well, they just have a different relationship with food, is my bottom line. Usually what I find, they have a different relationship with food. So that's something to think about too. Just let your brain be the power over the things that we don't have control over that way. And get that mindfulness home.
It was interesting because I remember going years back to college, and of course I put on the freshman 10 or 20, and I did have those friends that didn't, they were tiny. They just didn't put on weight. And the one thing I noticed was, if they weren't hungry, they didn't eat. And it might have been skipping meals, but I don't know. I think I was raised breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I would go and have all those meals. And of course, college meals are all carbohydrates and starch and what have you. But those girls that remained thin, that was the one thing that they did that I recognized. So I don't always eat at the right time, or I usually let my body tell me when to eat.
Right.
If I can. That made a big difference.
Right. That's the trick, is because oftentimes I'll have clients that are like, well, I'm trying to eat less because I want to lose weight, so I eat less often even whether or not I'm hungry. But that is actually hindering the metabolism and causing weight gain over time. But it seems counterintuitive, right? That said, you are in tune with your body's signals because you've taken the time to be mindful, and you think, wow, I had a really great breakfast and it should be lunchtime, but I'm just not feeling like I need right now. Then as long as you're listening to your body and it's a signal, not a I have to be skinny, then that's fine. Your body will probably respond well, you know.
I guess it kind of contradicts when we discussed intermittent fasting, and you had said it's important to eat in the morning to get your body, to wake your body up and to get your metabolism going.
Oh yes,
so
and that for breakfast, I would say is the exception to the rule. You should break your fast as early as you can, because that's just going to it's going to wake up your metabolism. That said, if it's lunchtime and you're like, damn, I'm still full from breakfast, then chill out. You know, say you can't just have a small snack in a couple hours instead. But yeah, it does come down to finding the fine line of doing what you know your body needs from what the studies have shown, and then listening to what your body is saying for real, not what you think you want it to say.
I know. No, it makes sense. It's just, you know, again, the European thing versus the American, it's like just the processed food alone that people don't even realize are processed food makes such a difference.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things in Europe is, you know, like when you go, like there's literally like there's like a market, you know, with fresh produce on every single corner, you know, and so they don't, their culture is not to go like bulk grocery shopping, even for the week, you know, no less, you know, for us, you know, like it's sometimes 2 weeks and stuff like that, where, you know, like you're trying to plan it out and you're busy and you're doing this and you're doing that. They're going to the store at least every other day to get fresh produce and to get, you know, items to go home and make like that day. So, and I know that is a cultural thing, and it's not something that's necessarily even possible, you know, for us. Like, it's just not, like, lifestyle wise, like, difficult, especially as you know, like here in Alaska. Like, it's, you know, like even the Sunday markets, all the local produces, that's what, you know, once a week. And so it's like planning out something that works for you and your lifestyle.
But and just that contributes to because I don't think that's easily feasible. My mom used to go to the store every day, and it was the worst because she was doing it out of this panic thing, not because she was being so mindful, but for them it is, right? That's a more mindful, it's part of their routine. If that is part of their routine, it's a lot more likely that they're going to fuel their body well throughout the day because they just got everything for it. Like, so it's kind of this flow. And that's like the mindfulness, right?
Know, like walking off the train and walking to the store and then walking home from the store, you know, like just, it's a lifestyle thing that is cultural, obviously, you know, like that's how like many people do it in Europe. And so
it's
well, even with, you know, gut health and gluten-free, whereas, you know, here people are gluten-free, but having bread in Europe, it's not the same gluten, is it?
Their flour is processed differently than ours, and we like to make things hard, I think.
Well, and my understanding with gluten too is that in the US we spray a ton of pesticides, and one of them specifically glyphosate. And so now there's been this question, like, do we actually have a gluten intolerance? Which likely, but also, is it more the glyphosate intolerance that we have here in America? And I know in Europe they don't use that particular pesticide side. So I'm wondering if that also is a factor over there.
That's why a lot of people that are like, yeah, I don't eat gluten stateside because I have a notable reaction. And then I went to Europe and I ate pastries and bread like it was going out of style, no problem. It's there's a lot of factors, but that's certainly one of them.
And same could be said for, say, like milk, or like I do have sensitivities to milk here, and then I can go to Europe and eat literally milk products, I should say. So, like, they're like, chow down on a ton of gelato and all of that has no effect on me. And I feel like that says a lot for like the preservatives we put in. I mean, bread specifically. I mean, you look at like bread here is made to last because people are only going to the grocery store once a week, and so they're made to last for that period, where like you go to Europe, you buy a loaf of bread, you better eat it within a couple days because like it's not going to be good. It's not meant to stay good for a long period of time.
Yeah, no, there's so many factors for sure. And it's just being as mindful as we can with what we have and taking the control that we do have, and not letting it be the excuse, but be the catalyst for our desire to be better, to do better. Like, again, within our power and our control.
Yeah, absolutely. Brittany, I have some resources I'll send you for Alaska as far as like markets throughout the winter, food sharing. I don't know if you're familiar with Blue Market. That's like the refillable store up there. One of my favorites. They always have like local meat, local milk, eggs and stuff. Yeah, and they have that year round. That was something that I used.
Cool. Refillable?
Yeah, it's and there I'll link this in the resources too, but there's this website called litterless.org.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it before maybe. But they're they have all the states and then all the different kind of grocery stores that you can buy in bulk, but like bring your own jar kind of thing. So if you want to get grains or nuts, spices, all of that, you can look at those stores and bring your own jars to refill. They're definitely trying to cut down on like excess waste.
Yeah,
all the little plastic baggies in the bulk food section.
Yes.
So that's kind of
it just inherently is typically less processed, right? Like that might not be their overall goal to make that to provide less processed things. They're working on the bring your own container aspect, but it is inherently going to be less processed, definitely.
I would love to get that. That would be
I'll send it to you. One of my favorites. Oh, this was so good, you guys. I love everyone's input and questions, and if you guys have ideas for the next one, Joelle and I usually talk about it after this and figure out what the next topic is, but if you have anything top of mind right now, feel free to share it.
I'm sorry I missed the last one when you had the guest. I'm gonna you sent me the link, Raina, and I'm gonna listen to it when we get off.
Yeah, great.
Good. Awesome. Good meeting.
Thank you, Trish, and thank you, Brittany, for being here. It was really awesome to have you guys. And we'll have the next one again in 2 weeks, on Tuesday, most likely.
The 20th.
Brittany, you're on the email list, right? I feel.
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. Then I will make sure.
Because so Joelle had tagged me this morning and I saw it and I was like, cool, I can do that. And then I didn't set a reminder. I took my meds this morning, but it doesn't feel like it. And
one of those days.
And I'm like checking my email, and then I saw the email and I was like, that's why I was late. And then I had to Google Meet, and so I was like, okay, well, I'll show up a few minutes late, but at least I'm
always come. Yeah, even if you're late, always come. Oh my gosh, my cat almost knocked down my drink onto us.
Oh no. I guess I'll be time to go.
Right?
All right, cool.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
guys.
Yes, thanks for coming,
Bye.
girls. Bam.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Oh.
solid.
I forgot to stop the recording. There we go.